Welcome all to the course Web Design for Beginners. I am Nipuni Chandimali and I am a lecturer at University of Moratuwa. Today we are going to discuss about the basics of CSS. Before moving forward, let's take a moment to revise the standard color coding scheme we have been using throughout our course. After today's lesson, you should be able to define what is CSS and to use a style sheet in an HTML document. First, let's see what is CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, on paper, or in other media. In simple terms, we can think of CSS like clothes and accessories that beautify the human body. Now let's see why should we use CSS. CSS is used to control the style of a web document. That means with CSS we can control the style of a website. And this results in improved user experience of a website. With that, let's see how a web page is displayed with CSS and without CSS. To see that, let's go to netflix.com. With CSS, netflix.com is shown like this. Here you can see how attractive the website is, and it's very user-friendly. Now let's see how Netflix.com website is viewed without CSS. This is how Netflix.com is viewed without CSS. You can see how dull and monotonous the content is. Now you can understand the importance of using CSS in a website. Now let's get familiar with the syntax of CSS. A CSS style is made up of three parts. First one is the selector. It is the HTML element to which we need to apply the style. For an example, it can be a table element, heading element, etc. Then we have the CSS property. Property is the type of attribute of HTML tag to which a particular value should be applied. And then we have the values. Values are assigned to properties. The property and value is given as key value pairs separated by colons. For an example, think I want to make the border of my table solid with the 1 pixel thickness and with the color given here. There I have to define the selector as the table. Then within curly braces, I have to define the property and the value. You will understand more about the syntax of CSS when we are moving forward in this lesson. Now let's see how we can add a style sheet to our HTML document. There are three ways of inserting a style sheet. First one is the external CSS, then the internal CSS and inline CSS. Let's discuss about each of these in detail one by one. First, let's see how to add an external style sheet. With an external style sheet, we can change the look of an entire website by changing just one file. When adding an external style sheet, we need to remember that an external style sheet can be written in any text editor, and it must be saved with the .css extension. And the other important thing is that external CSS file should not contain any HTML tags. Now let's create our first external style sheet. To do that, I'm going to open my VS Code editor. There, I'm going to create a new file called mystyle.css. Within this .css file, I'm going to define the styles I want to be applied to my web page. Here, first I'll define the HTML element I want to add the style. Here, I want to make the background of my website light blue. To do that, as we discussed earlier, first I have to identify the HTML element to which I want this particular style to be applied. Here, as we discussed earlier, I have to identify to which HTML element I want this particular style to be applied. So in this case, I have to apply the style to the body element. So I'm going to give the selector as body. Then within the curly braces, I have to define the property and the value. Here, the property I have to use is the background color. You will learn more about these properties in the upcoming lessons. Here, with the colon, I have to define the value. Then we have to use a colon at the end of our sentence. Then I am going to save my changes. Then let's see how to include this in our HTML document. To do that, we have to open our HTML document. To do that, each HTML page referring this particular external style sheet should include the reference to it inside the link element defined within the head section. So within the head section, I am going to use the link element. This link element has two attributes. The rel attribute, which defines the relationship between the HTML file and the linked file. So this is a style sheet. So I am giving the value as style sheet. Then the next attribute of the link element is the href attribute. The href attribute is used to define the path of the external CSS file. Here in my example, both my index.html and external style sheet are located in the same folder. So I simply have to give the file name. If you have those two files in two separate folders, then you have to give the respective path. Then I am going to save my content and let's view it on the browser. Here you can see the background of my website is turned into light blue. So that's how we can add an external style sheet to our HTML document. Now let's discuss about how to add an internal style sheet to our HTML document. Again, I am going to open my code editor. The internal styles are defined inside the style element inside the head section of the HTML page. Within the style element, I have to define my CSS styles. Now I want to change the background color of my web page into pink. So again, I'm going to define my selector, and within double braces, I'm going to define my property and the value. Again, I'm going to save the changes, and now let's view it on the browser. I'm going to reload the page. Here you can see that background color is changed to pink. That's how we have to add an internal style sheet. With that, let's discuss about adding inline styles. An inline style can be used to apply a unique style for a single HTML element. To use inline styles, we have to add the style attribute to the relevant HTML element. The style attribute can contain any CSS property. Now let's add an inline style. Now I want to make the heading 1 red. To do that, as we discussed, I have to add the particular style attribute to this HTML element. So as the value to the style attribute, I have to pass the property value pair. I want to make it red. So the value is red. Now I'm going to save my changes. Let's see how this is displayed on our browser. Now you can see the heading was made red. That's how we can add an inline style to a particular HTML attribute. Another important thing that we need to keep in mind when using CSS is that inline styles has the highest precedence. That means styles added by external and internal style sheets are overridden by inline styles. So, the style precedence of CSS is inline style, then comes the external and internal style sheets, and finally the browser default styles. So we need to keep the priority of the styles in our mind when developing a web page. Before winding up, let's take a moment to revise what we learned today. We learned that by using CSS, we can change the style of our website. And there are 3 ways of inserting a style sheet. Now let's wind up for today and meet again in our next lesson. Thank you.
Hello students, I am Ashirvada Daratna, an IT professional at WSO2. First, let me welcome you all to the course of Web Design for Beginners. During this session, you will learn the basic CSS properties which can be used to style your HTML content. So throughout this session, I will be using this color coding to make it easy for you to understand the lecture. So the very important points will be in red and the points to be highlighted will be in blue, and the terminology will be in green. The off-topic content will be in purple. Today you will be learning about the CSS properties and how they can be used to style your HTML content. CSS property is something we use to style or to decorate the HTML content we write. There are a lot of CSS properties that can be used to style the HTML content. So we can change the colors, spacing, text, borders, and many more. Let's think that your mother's birthday is coming and you want to give her a nice birthday card. So you are going to make one for her. You will be using different colors, letters, pictures to make the card beautiful. This birthday card is similar to the web page we design or the HTML content we write. To make that beautiful, we include CSS properties similar to the colors, pictures, text we used in the birthday card. When defining the CSS properties, we have to include the name and its value. So As an example, if we want to define a color, so the property name would be color. The value can be red, green, blue, any color. Also, we can include more than one CSS property as well. Let's see what CSS properties we can use. So first property we are going to discuss today is text. So I will explain this using our birthday card example. First, you are going to add the verse in the card. So you can use different fonts, different font sizes, different font styles to make the card beautiful. Likewise, there are several properties we can use to style the text elements on the web page. Let's see what CSS properties that can be used to style the text elements. I will explain these properties using the birthday card. For the verse in the birthday card, we can use different font styles. So we can use font styles to write the different content in the card. In CSS also, we have many font styles that can be used to make the HTML content attractive. Next, we are going to use different font styles. Let's think you want to write Happy Birthday Mom on the card. You can write that with big letters compared to other letters. So it will be highlighted compared to other. Likewise, we can use the CSS property font size to define the different font sizes for each content on the web page. Another property we can use for text is font face. From this property, we can change the thickness of the text. So if we think this from our birthday card example, we can write the Happy Birthday Mom part with more thickness compared to other text. Then it will be highlighted compared to other. Next property we are going to discuss is the color. As I mentioned previously as well, we can use different colors to make our content clear and attractive. When we create a birthday card, we use different colors to make the card beautiful. Similarly, we can use different colors in the web page as well. Let's see how we can change the colors to make our web page attractive. For the text in the web page, we can use different colors. Color property allows us to change the color of the text. As an example, for the text on the birthday card, we can use different colors. Using different colors will make the card beautiful. And we can highlight the text that is important using colors. Also, we can change the background color of the card as well. Let's say we have to use a black color board to make the card. Our text is not clear when we write in the back color board. So we paste the paper with cream color and write the text on top of the paper. Then the text will be clear and visible. Likewise, we can change the background color of the web page as well using the background color property. The final property we are discussing today is spacing. Spacing is also important to make the content more clear and visible. Let's see how we can change the spacing to make our web page clear and visible. Padding is a property that defines the space around the content. So let's think this from our birthday card. When we paste the cream color paper to write the text, we leave some space around the black color board to highlight the paper. Likewise, we can leave some space outside the content of the web page to make it highlight. Also, when writing the content, we leave some space between the content and between the lines. We are doing this to make the content more clear. Similarly, we can use margin property to leave space around the content and lines. Border is something that comes between the padding and the margin. So border can be used to separate the content from other content. So in the card, we can add a border between the black color board and the cream color paper we pasted to make the content in the paper clear. So that's all for the today's session. Let's recap what we have learned. CSS properties are used to style the HTML elements similar to the text color we use to decorate the birthday card. So we have discussed three main categories of properties today. So they are text, color, and spacing. Adding text styles, colors, spacing will make the birthday card beautiful. Similarly, these properties will change the look and feel of the web page as well. Thank you.
Welcome to the course Web Design for Beginners. I'm Sashika Kumarasinghe and I'm lecturer at University of Morato. Today we are going to discuss CSS background styling. Before moving forward, let's take a moment to get familiar with the standard color coding scheme we have been using throughout this course. CSS background properties are used to define the background effects on HTML elements. We are going to discuss 5 CSS background properties in this video. Those are background color, background image, background repeat, background attachment, and background position. The background color property is used to specify the background color of the HTML element. You can specify the color in different ways. You can use the valid color name, for example, red, blue, green, and etc. Also, you can use hex value, RGB value, and so on. Here in this example, you can see that the background color has been set to blue in the body section, and there valid color name has been used. The background color of the H1 element has been set to green, and it is specified by the hex value of the green color. The background color of the P element has been set to red, and it is specified by the RGB value. Here you can see how it looks when you apply background colors to these HTML elements. The background image property is used to set an image as a background of an element. You can specify which HTML element needs the background image property as shown in the code segment. And inside the URL, you can specify the path to the image that you choose as background. By default, the image covers the entire element. Further, background image property repeats the background image horizontally and vertically. You can see it clearly in this output. Sometimes the background looks better when it is repeated only vertically, horizontally, or when there's no repeat. We can control the repeating property of the background image. If you need to repeat horizontally, you can set the background repeat property as repeat X, as shown in the code segment. It will only repeat horizontally in X direction, as shown here. If you need to repeat vertically in Y direction only, then you can specify the background repeat property as repeat Y. It will give an output as shown here. If you do not need to repeat the background image, then you can set the background repeat property as no repeat. Background image can be positioned in the web page. You can use the background position property to position the image. By default, it is positioned in the top left corner of the web page. Here, as you can see, I have positioned the tree image on the right-hand side of the web page. But you can position in the left, right, top, bottom, or center. The background attachment property specifies whether the background image should scroll or be fixed. If you set the background attachment property as fixed, then the background image will not be moved with the web page. If you set it as scroll, then the background image will be moved with the web page. With that, we have come to the end of the video. We have learned some basic CSS background styling properties. See you in the next lesson. Thank you. Welcome to the course Web Design for Beginners. I'm Sashika Kumarasinghe and I'm a lecturer at University of Moratuwa. Today we are going to discuss the CSS navigation bar. Before moving forward, let's take a moment to get familiar with the standard color coding scheme we have been using throughout the course. What is a navigation bar? Navigation bar is used to help the visitor to access different sections in the web page. As you can see in the figures, normally the navigation bar is displayed on top of the page or left side of the web page. But that might differ according to the design of the web page. We can say that the navigation bar is an UI element of a web page. It consists of a list of links. Horizontal list of links is normally called as horizontal navigation bar. And the vertical list of links is normally called as vertical navigation bar. Let's create a CSS horizontal navigation bar. Here I have created a list with few links to direct different sections on a web page. For this demonstration, I haven't included the exact URLs. But when you are creating the links, you can give exact URLs for the respective sections where you need to navigate. We'll run this index.html file and let's see how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Now let's change the CSS properties of this list. For that, I'm going to use internal CSS to style the HTML elements. We can create style tag inside head section to include internal CSS. Now, I need to remove the bullets, margins, and add some paddings in the UL element. For that, I'm going to specify that in style. The list style type none will remove the bullets. And I'm going to remove the margin by setting the margin to 0. And I'm going to add some paddings to the UL elements. Now we'll see how it looks like. Now the list is visible vertically, but we need to have a horizontal navigation bar. For that, we can add some CSS properties to change the list element. Let's do it. You can display the list as inline. Also, you can add some paddings to make the list items display clearly. And we'll have a background color to the whole list of links. I'll add a background color to the UL element. Further, we can change the wording color and the text decoration of the links. Now let's see how it looks like. Now the wording is clear and fine, but still it's difficult to figure out the current link of the page where the user is on. If we can change the color of the current link, we can show that clearly. Let's see how we can do that. Let's think that we need to make the home as active. We can add a class active in home link. Then we can change the color of the active class. If you need to change the color of an item when you hover on it, you can change it by setting the background color like this. Now let's see how this looks like. You can see the home is the active link. And when you hover on an item, it changes its color. Likewise, you can style your navigation bar according to your requirement. With that, we have come to the end of the video. We have learned some basics of CSS navigation bar and we have created a horizontal navigation bar. Let's meet again with a new lesson. Thank you.
Hello students, I am Upulanka Premasiri, lecturer at the University of Moratuwa and a former software engineer. Under this topic, you will learn and experience how to apply styles on multimedia such as images, videos and animations with CSS. We are using this color coding to make it easy for you to understand the lecture during this course. These core areas will be covered with activities under our topic. Styling images with CSS, styling videos with CSS, basic animations with CSS. To follow this topic successfully, you have to be familiar with HTML basics and basic properties of CSS. Before going through styling images, we have to create a simple web page so we can try each styling property. You have to have an image file as well. One styling method is making the edges of the image less pointy. We can use the border radius property to create images with rounded edges. Let's try out this example code. Using the border property, we can make images more like thumbnails. Let's try out this example code. The ability to adjust according to the screen size is known as responsiveness. We can make images responsive to any screen by setting the width and height property to auto. Let's try out this example code. We can restrict the responsiveness of an image not to scale up to the larger than its original size. All we have to do is set the max width value to 100%. We can set the alignments of an image to the center position of the web page. To do that, we have to follow two steps. First, we can make the image into a block element. Then we can set the left and right margin values to auto. Opacity property brings transparent effects to images. It can take a value from 0 to 1. The lower the value, it will become more transparent. Let's try out this example code. We learned to apply styles to images with examples. Now we are going to apply styles to video files. To proceed, let's create a simple web page. Then we can try out video styling properties. We can set the width property to 100%. The video player will be responsive and scale up and down. Let's try out this example code. We can use the max width property and set it to 100%. The video player will scale down if it has to, but never scale up to the larger than its original size. Let's try out this example code. We learned to apply styles to images and videos with examples. Now we are going to learn basic animations with CSS. Animation is a way of making a move from many still objects. Under these topics, you will be scaling objects, rotating objects, and moving objects with CSS. We call these type of simple animations transforms. Let's create a simple website including an object to try to transform animations. You can refer to the slides to create the animating object. The object has three properties: width of 200 pixels and height of 100 pixels. And the top margin should be 200 pixels. You can add any color to the object by using the background color property. I am using the red color according to the RGB color mode. First, we are going to learn scale animation. That means we are going to change the size of the object. For the transform scale property, we can use either two values to scale along both the x and y axis. When the user places the mouse over the object, it will animate. This will be achieved by this line transform animation hover is used to getting the mouse over input. Let's try out this example code. Now we are going to learn the rotation animation. By using the transform rotate property, we can change the angle of the object. We have to put only one value and then it will be considered as rotation according to the clockwise around the center of the object. We use degrees as the unit of the angle. If we want to rotate the object along the x-axis, we can use the rotate x property, and rotate along the y-axis, we can use the rotate y property. Finally, we are going to learn movement animation. By using the transform translate property, we can move the object from point A to point B. If we want to move the object along x-axis, we can use the translate x property, and move along the y-axis, we can use translate y property with only one value. Let's try out this example code. We successfully completed handling multimedia components with CSS. Thank you.
Welcome all to the course Web Design for Beginners. I am Kulani Mahadeva, a lecturer at the University of Moratuwa. In this lesson, I am introducing you pseudo elements in CSS. Before moving forward, let's take a moment to get familiar with the standard color coding scheme we have been using throughout this course. Pseudo elements. Here the prefix pseudo is a Greek word. Its meaning is fake or not genuine. Why do we need something fake? Think about the fake products in the market. These products seem much similar to the real products, but they cost much less. So that would be an advantage in buying a fake product. Then what is the advantage of using pseudo elements in CSS? Now we know pseudo means fake, element means an HTML element. Does that mean pseudo element is a fake element? Now we know CSS is a style sheet language. That means it has to be something related to styling. So pseudo elements add styles to a web page that looks like HTML elements. Let's take an example to understand it. Here we have an HTML page. Can you guess the HTML elements used in this page? It looks like there is a heading tag, then some image tags. In the below, 3 paragraph tags or div tags. That is because CSS adds styles to the entire element. However, in reality, here we only have one heading tag within the head. Then in the body, we have one paragraph tag. So to get this look and feel, we don't need to add any new HTML elements or use JavaScript code. That is the advantage. So what is a pseudo element? It is a keyword. Then it uses along with CSS selectors. Generally, CSS selectors apply styles to the entire element, but here it applies styles to specific parts of an HTML element. So let's see what pseudo elements are used in this example. First, we have before pseudo element. It adds content before the content of the heading tag. Then, after pseudo element, it adds content after the content of the heading tag. Next, we have first line pseudo element. It adds styles to the first line of the paragraph tag. Finally, we have first letter pseudo element. It adds styles to the first letter of this paragraph tag. Now let's see how to use pseudo elements in CSS. Let's take one example. How to use first letter pseudo element for the paragraph tag. We add codes within the style tags. The syntax includes selector :: pseudo element. Here the selector is the paragraph tag, pseudo element is first letter. Then we add a code block as in CSS selectors and set CSS values for the CSS properties. Similarly, we use other pseudo elements also along with CSS selectors. We add before pseudo element for the h2 tag. Here the content property is a necessary property to use this pseudo element. Here we keep it blank, then add a background image. Then based on the preferences, we give values for the other properties. The after pseudo element follows the same as previous. The last pseudo element here is the first line. It simply decorates the first line with underlining and color with a purple variant. Here we only discussed 4 different pseudo elements. There are many other. In the further readings, I will provide references. So this is about pseudo elements in CSS. Thank you.
Hello students, I am CSS Trivikramasinghe, a former lead software engineer, and currently I'm working as a lecturer at University of Moratuwa. It is a new lesson that we are going to discuss today. We are using our usual color coding to denote some important facts in our lecture slides. I hope you are already familiar with this. Please have a look. You are going to learn what is CSS box model and how you can use this approach to set borders, padding, and also margins for your HTML elements. I know you're already familiar with some of these HTML tags, and also you have learned a bit about CSS. You might be already aware about setting padding, margin kind of attributes. But in this box model concept, it is a newer way of thinking about your CSS styling, and it helps you to design professional looking and also clean web pages. In CSS box model concept, we consider all HTML elements as box-shaped items. By thinking like that, it is very easy for developers to add margins, paddings, and border attributes to these HTML elements. I know you are very curious to know how this works and why you need to use this concept. That is why I am going to show some examples using Visual Studio Code and explain this in a practical manner. I encourage every one of you to try these examples together with me and understand this interesting box model concept. I am going to explain everything step by step. Here I have created a very simple HTML page and I added some basic CSS styles. We have two paragraph tags in our HTML page and we have added two style classes. Now, where are we getting these styles? We are getting these styles from line number 5. We have linked a style sheet which is styles.css. This is my CSS class. So these are the CSS classes that I have added for my two different paragraph tags. That means we have two text items and we have two style classes applied to that. This is the preview of our web page, so you can see my two paragraph tags. First paragraph tag contains this is the first box and the second one says this is the second box. And from the styles I am applying background color attributes. One box goes into light yellowish color and the second one goes with a pinkish color. But I am not applying any borders, margins or padding, whatever. Now, when this kind of a scenario is there, according to the CSS box model, we identify almost any HTML element as a box. So I'll show what I mean by that. In Chrome Developer Tools, you can see it very clearly. How to open Google Chrome Developer Tools? First, open your browser and open your web page. Then right click somewhere on your web page. Go to Inspect. And from there, you will get a window like this. This is Chrome Developer Tools. We are interested in the box model content. For view that, select Elements and go to Styles. From the Styles, Styles is a tab that you can see. From the Styles, you can see a graph like this. This is the box model. You can see this box model bigger in the Computed tab as well. According to this box model, now you can see our first paragraph. Paragraph 1, box 1 style applied element. Now if I select it, you can see that particular paragraph is getting highlighted. This is the box model. You can see there's a width and height, but there are no padding, border or margins. It's the same with the second paragraph tag as well. Now I'm showing how to add padding, borders and margins and what kind of changes that we can expect. Now this is a HTML box model type attribute. If I'm going to apply some paddings, let's see what's going to happen. For the box 1 style, I'm going to add a padding of 20 pixels. Now padding means you are adding some space within your box model. Let me show what I mean. If I refresh my page, now you can see we have some spaces between our text and the margin of our box. If I open my inspect element, you can see now according to our box model diagram, we have applied 20 pixel margin. This is our content or this is our text area. Outside of the text, we have added 20 pixel with height and left and right values. Now this is a padding attribute. Why you need a padding attribute? If you want to have a good looking space around HTML content, you can add padding value like this. This can be either a text paragraph tag, or this can be a button, image, or almost any HTML element. You can try and explore how this padding works. There are multiple ways of adding padding value as well. Now in this case, we added just 20. That means 20 pixels are going to apply for your right hand side of the content, left hand side of the content, top and bottom. All the 4 sides will be including this padding. But if you want to have different values for different sides, you can try like this. I'm going to add 5 pixels, then 10 pixels, and 15 pixels and 50 pixels. Now I added 4 different padding values like this. That means you are applying these values, 1 value for each side. Now if you look at your box model, you can see 5 value is the first value we are giving is going to be the top padding value. It's applying to the top value. 10 pixel, that is going to apply to the right side of the value. Then 15 goes to the bottom, and the next one 50 pixels is going to be applied to the left side of your content. Now this is how the padding works. Then another interesting thing I want to show you is the border attribute. Borders are little bit similar to the padding, but borders always apply to the outside of your content. If I apply 20 pixel solid RGB value, I will give a black border. If I apply a border like this, you can see your paragraph is now getting wrapped by a border. Border width is 20 pixels and border color is red. Maybe I'll change the color into another one. Let's say blue color. Let me save it. Now you can see this is our border. Now if you look at the box model, you can see now we have padding and also we have the border value. Now borders are always coming after padding. Okay, then third one, margin. If I give a margin like 10 pixel, margins are going to apply outside from the border as well. Now you can see we have our content, then we have a padding, Then from the blue color, you can see your border. Then outside of the border, you can see a white line, that is the margin. Margins are going to apply from the outermost side of your content. Actually, first content, then padding, then border, then margin. We have this margin value. Now, according to this box model, now our margin value is 10. This is how we apply different margins, paddings and borders using CSS box model. There are some interesting things that you can investigate further with this margin, padding and border as well. Let me show one quick example. Now you have two different paragraph elements. What happens if I apply margins to both? Let me show it to you. First, I will get rid of all the padding values. I will keep only margin. Second one also I will keep margin. Now if I refresh, now I am applying margin to the first paragraph tag only. Now if I add the same margin value to the second one, now you can imagine now we are going to add another 10 pixel margin around the second paragraph tag as well. But if I refresh my page, now you can see it is also same like the first paragraph tag, but can you notice now this width is 10 pixel. It is fine. Now this width is 10 pixel. That is right. And also from the first paragraph, we have 10 pixel margin from the bottom side of this. We are applying another margin for the second one also, right? So the second one also should have 10 pixel margin. But now from the first one we have 10 pixel, second one also we have 10 pixel from the top side, but here the total is also 10. Ideally you might think there should be 20. Why? Because there's a 10 coming from the first paragraph tag, another 10 coming from the second paragraph tag. So it should be 20. You might think like that. But actually it is still 10. Why is that? That is because margins are always getting overlapped, and the highest margin will be the visible one. If I remove the margin of first text box and if I reload, you can see still there's a 10 pixel margin. Why? Because this 10 pixel coming from the box 2. Then if I increase the pixel of maybe the second one to 50, now what should happen? Now I told you margins are getting overlapped and only the highest one will be visible. In this case, you can see the first box model having 10 pixel margin. You have 10 pixel around this model, but here there's 50 pixel. Why? The highest margin value is 50. So the 10 will be overlapped by the 50. So the visible margin is between the first two paragraph tags is the highest one, which is going to be the 50 pixel one. I showed you some practical examples of using box model and setting this padding, margin and border values. I hope you enjoyed our session together. I encourage you to check further resources section for more details. Thank you very much and hope to see you in the next one.
Welcome all to the course Web Design for Beginners. I'm Chandra Bandara and I am a software engineer by profession. In today's lesson, we are going to discuss the industry-related frameworks in Cascade style sheets. In short, we say CSS. Before moving forward, let's take a moment to get familiar with the standard color coding scheme we have been using throughout this course. After today's lesson, you should be able to understand the importance of using Bootstrap in web development. First, see what is a framework. Imagine you want to build a house. You don't want anyone to get involved in this process. So you draw the plan of the house by yourself as you want, then keep on building the house again by yourself as you see in the most proper way. What are the issues you face here? This is like a trial and error method. You lack prior experience in house construction, so things may go wrong and may need rework. This costs all effort, time, and money. What can you do to avoid this? We can follow the best practices suggested by the construction industry experts. They propose those suggestions with their experience, so we can avoid duplicate of efforts. So a framework is a platform that provides a foundation for developing software applications. It is a template of a working program that can be modified by us according to our requirements. Now let's see what is Bootstrap. Bootstrap is the most popular CSS framework for developing responsive and mobile-first websites. Bootstrap 5 is the latest version of Bootstrap as of today. Then let's see why we need to use Bootstrap in web application development. With Bootstrap, we can easily create responsive websites. We can quickly create multi-column layout with predefined classes. Quickly create different types of form layouts. Quickly create different variations of navigation bars. Easily create components like accordions, models, etc. without writing any JS code. Furthermore, we can quickly create different types of alert boxes. Easily create dynamic tabs to manage large amount of content. Also, we can easily create things like tooltips and popovers to show hint text. Now let's see the advantages of using Bootstrap. It saves lots of time. We can save time and effort using the Bootstrap's predefined design templates and its classes. Responsive features. Using Bootstrap, we can easily create responsive websites with different screen resolutions. Consistent design. All Bootstrap components share the same design templates and styles through a central library. So the design and layout of our web pages will be consistent. It's easy to use. Bootstrap is very easy to use. Anybody with the basic working knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can start development with Bootstrap. Compatible with the browsers. Bootstrap is compatible with all modern browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer, etc. It's open source. It's completely free to download and use. In summary, we can say Bootstrap is the most popular and powerful front-end framework. There are many advantages in using Bootstrap. With that, we have moved towards the end of today's lesson. Let's meet again in the next lesson. Thank you.